Dr. Sharif Abdullah offers a unique, hopeful, and visionary perspective on the persistent challenges of our time. His perspective is shaped by his urban upbringing of poverty and violence, his Ivy League education, and his work with impacted communities in America and in 45 countries around the world. His spiritual outlook is rooted in the consciousness of dozens of religions, faith traditions, and spiritual practices. Sharif offers this unique viewpoint, helping us chart a course that explains where we've been, where we are now, and how we get to a positive future that works for all living beings.
Hello, Sharif here. And today I want to talk to you about 2021 and some of my predictions as to what is going to happen this year, and more importantly, what you can do about it. I said in my earlier video that we can't see, that we are not going to be able to see the exact circumstances of how we're going to be affected in this upcoming year. But I'm pretty sure that we're going to be affected. I don't know what external is coming our way. You know, is it an asteroid? Is it more fires? Is it something else? We're not going to be able to see that. However, I think that what we can see is what our reaction to those things are going to be. And it's not so much the thing itself, but our reaction to the thing that is going to either solve our problems or not solve our problems. So let me give you 3 or 4 things that I think are going to be happening and what we can do about those things. Regardless of what happens, we are going to be, as a society, as individuals, and as a world body of human beings, we're going to be experiencing deeper and more complex psychoses. We've already been going crazy, and we're going to get crazier in 2021. The basis of this, who knows? I think one of the bases is going to be the disentanglement we have as a society, that all the things that we've done to separate each other from each other is separating our consciousness from each other. And that means that each of us as an individual will be experiencing a diminished capacity, diminished cognitive function. Let me share with you what I mean by that. I was talking to someone recently about about various matters, and I can't reveal to you where I was and how I was doing this. It involves a client. And as I was talking to this person who is and who appeared to me to be reasonable, rational. This was someone who was sharing very important information. This is someone who had a very important employment. The conversation got around to COVID in some way. And he said, COVID is the deadliest disease humanity has ever faced. He said this very matter of fact to me. And before I could even open my mouth, he says, more people have died from COVID than from any other disease. And before I could open my mouth for that, he kind of went on that, you know, we're like in these end times because humanity is being decimated by COVID. And the numbers say something else. The bubonic plague killed 200 million people back in the days when there was not over a couple billion people in the society as a whole. The 1918 and 1919 Spanish flu killed 50 million people. COVID it has been very deadly on our planet. So far, it's killed about 2 million people. 2 here, 50 million over here. Now, COVID is proven to be about 2 to 3 times more virulent than the average flu that comes through every year that we don't think about. We don't talk about. So some way this guy had ramped that up to the highest thing that humanity has ever faced. Nothing about the numbers makes his statement make sense, but he deeply believed it. When he was talking, it made me think about something that I had heard when I was reading Rumi. And what I'd like to do is just read to you what Rumi says from his teaching. Okay. So this is Rumi. A certain man caught a bird in a trap. The bird says, "Sir, you have eaten many cows and sheep in your life, and you're still hungry. The little bit of meat on my bones won't satisfy you either. If you let me go, I'll give you 3 pieces of wisdom. One I'll say standing on your hand, one when I fly to the roof, and one I'll speak from the limb of that tree." The man was interested. He freed the bird and let it stand on his hand. The bird says, "Number 1, do not believe in absurdity, no matter who says it." Then the bird flew to the roof and said, "Number 2, do not grieve over what is past. It's over. Never regret what has happened." By the way, the bird continued, in my body there's a huge pearl, weighing as much as 10 copper coins. It was meant to be the inheritance of you and your children, but now you've lost it. You could have owned the largest pearl in existence, but evidently this was not meant to be. The man started wailing like a woman in childbirth. The bird said, "Didn't I just say don't grieve over what's in the past? Didn't I also say don't believe in absurdity? My entire body doesn't weigh as much as 10 copper coins. How could I have had a pearl that heavy inside me?" The man came to his senses. "All right, tell me number 3. And the bird says, "Yes, you've made such good use of the first 2. Many people in our society are affected by absurdities, by things that are patently absurd. And I'm not saying this in terms of anything to do with the recent election. But someone sent directly to me an email. And the email said, there's going to be, and her words were, a tsunami of facts of how Donald Trump stole the election. How Biden stole the election from Donald Trump. And I tried to reason with her the way the bird did. If there was a tsunami of evidence, why wasn't it submitted to any of the 60 courts that were listening to this? And the response, and I thought that was a very measured and a very reasonable thing for me to say. And her response was very angry, and you obviously haven't been paying attention to what's going on here, and when you see it come out, then you'll be surprised, and so on and so on and so on. So not only are we believing the absurdity, when the bird presented the evidence, I can't have a pearl that big inside of me. I don't weigh that much. The man came to his senses. But I don't know if there's anything that's going to snap us to our senses. I don't think there's any facts that are going to snap us to our senses. I wanted to say something else about this, and this has to do with what could be causing this psychosis in our society that both the left and the right are experiencing. This is not a function of, Trump politics or anything like that. I can come up with lots of evidence of it being of this lack of cognitive function being on both sides of the fence. So I'll tell you something that we learned when I was studying in law school, and this was in our torts classes, and this is looking at product liability. This is a real live lawsuit that happened between a person and a couple of companies that we're not supposed to know the names of, but we do know the names of. It was Marlboro cigarettes and Budweiser beer. So Budweiser put something called a head stabilizer in its beer. So they dump tons and tons of chemicals in all of our products and don't tell us what they're dumping in. So the head stabilizer just makes sure the foam on top of the beer stays at a good level. Not too little, not too much. And this head stabilizer, they had tested this on 50,000 rats and found out that it was non-toxic to humans. So they're feeding this stuff to us. At the same time, Marlboro was putting a burn stabilizer in their cigarettes, so that the cigarette wouldn't burn too fast, it wouldn't burn too slow, it would burn just right. And they're dumping tons and tons of this chemical in all of the cigarettes. And they had tested this on 50,000 rats, and they realized that this is non-toxic to human beings. So there are people who are smoking the chemical-laden cigarettes, and they're drinking the chemical-laden beer. When these two chemicals combined, at the point in time where this person belched, if they burped, the two chemicals would combine and create a gas that was absolutely toxic. It would stop your heart. And so all around the country, these guys are regular human beings sitting down in front of their TV sets, watching TV, drinking a beer, smoking a cigarette, would drop dead. No history of heart failure or anything like that. All of a sudden, there are people, primarily men, primarily healthy, primarily middle-aged, dropping dead from no reason at all. And when they worked backwards and they found out that these two chemicals would combine to create this, the widows were suing the companies. And of course, they lost. They lost because the company said, you've got to prove that our chemical did that, and nobody could do that. What if there's some other chemical combination? Instead of killing us, it's making us less able to cognitively function in the world, more likely to believe absurdities. What if the people who are doing that are the people that we call our leaders? What if it's so subtle that it appears over some period of time? We don't just drop dead the way that they did in the cigarettes and the beer case. What would happen if there was something that just robs us of our ability to think, to reason, to see the world as it is, to make us more likely to believe absurdities? I think this is one of the things that we need to protect ourselves against in the future. I think the best protection that we can make right now is for us to link with others, people of a good intelligence, people who are not believing in absurdities, and share with them how we see the world. Share with them how we are alike. Share with them our hopes, fears, dreams, etc., and hopefully not share with them through the social media talking heads, even if they are talking heads. It could be talking AIs for all we know. I think that we need to be careful with each other. I think we need to be cognizant of how we are working together and cognizant of a vision that actually works for all. I've got more to say about this subject, and I'll say it in the weeks to come. Thank you. Bye.
You are invited to participate in the discussions and activities that will define a positive future for all. We are at the cusp of the expansion of our human consciousness, beyond the limitations of our past. Together, we can envision a world that embraces our human potential. Together, we can create a world that can truly work for all living beings.